Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. And today we will show you how to improve your smart contract development and security in VS Code. My name is Stepan, and I'm a team lead and ethical hacker and developer in Aki Blockchain Security. We are based in Prague, Czech Republic, and we are mainly focused to security audits, development of open source security tools, and also we are teaching EVM and Solidity at Czech Technical University. Well, these are some of our clients. We work, for example, with Lido, Safe, Axelar, or 1inch. And we also received some grants for our open source development. Well, are there any developers here? Hands up. Okay, cool. So let's dive in, and we will show you how to improve your development and security in VS Code. So what features do we need to achieve this? So for the development, syntax highlighting, of course. We want to easily navigate through the code. We need to compile our code and deploy it to some local chain and interact with our contracts using some convenient way or using tests. And debug, of course, because developers don't like bugs, but hackers do. And that's why we should measure the security even during the development process. So we need at least good static analyzer which can detect some vulnerability patterns in your code and show them in the code. And sometimes it's useful to see the code from a different perspective, more visualized, so graphs can be useful. And yeah, we wanted to have all these features in one tool, and that's why we developed Solidity VS Code extension powered by Wake. You can easily install it from the marketplace into the VS Code or Cursor IDE, and you will get all of these features for free. So let's dive a little bit more deeper into the features. So here's the static analysis. We show the detections directly in the VS Code UI. We are using many different vulnerability detectors to do this, and the detectors they are evaluating the impact and confidence of these issues. And also in the UI you can group them and filter them by many criteria. So yeah, this can be really useful for early stage security. Yeah, you can see the vulnerabilities highlighted directly in the code. And yeah, let's see the graphs. Especially when you are inheriting from many external dependencies, you have sometimes no idea what you are inheriting. So here's the example of a contract which is inheriting from 4 parents, but the actual the actual inheritance graph is not that simple. So you can inherit some features which you don't want. The next type of graph is control flow graph, which transforms this easy transfer function into this graph. So you can see all the execution branches of your code. So it can be useful sometimes as well. Yeah, and last year at Ethereum Prague, we've announced a convenient UI for deploying and interacting with your contracts directly in the VS Code. So today I'm really excited to say that we have it released, and please warm welcome to Lukas, and he will say you more. Thank you.
So, hello everyone. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. As said, I'm Lukas. I'm also an auditor and developer at Aki, and I'll be talking to you about the newest addition to the extension. In order to do that, I first have to take a step back and talk a little bit more about the different testing approaches we can take. Then I will circle back to the extension and talk about the new features. So I believe we can take two different approaches when testing our applications. Firstly, you have the comprehensive testing suites. These are your Foundry, Hard Hat, Brownie, complex tests. You implement and then use them to test them against your code. However, these can take quite some time to implement, and often you only just want to peek inside your code if it works and looks as intended. To illustrate what I mean, let's take an example from Web 2. Let's say you are developing some backend. You can just open Postman, Insomnia, any similar software, click a few buttons, and you can immediately see if the app is behaving as it should. I mean, front end is even easier. You just open the browser, right, and can immediately see if the code looks as intended. Transferring this to Remix, how can we to smart contracts? How can we actually test our contracts in a similar chain way? I would argue that this is where something like Remix comes in. For those unfamiliar, Remix is a code editor. It has all the basic functionalities you would expect. However, it also packs a few Solidity specific features, mainly this nice interactive UI, which allows you to compile, interact, and deploy your smart contracts on a local chain. Remix, thanks to this nice functionality, has become one of the most well-known toolings in Solidity development. However, I would argue that it has quite a few limitations which hinder it from becoming a professional-grade tooling. Firstly, I mean, it's only web-based, although there have been efforts to bring it as a standalone desktop application. All of these were deprecated over the years. Secondly, I would argue that the user experience could be vastly improved. It can feel quite cluttered. For example, to give you some specific pain points, when you're compiling and deploying your contracts, you can only do it one by one, selecting each and every one from a dropdown. This just creates unnecessary friction, right? It takes too much time. Whenever you are interacting with these contracts you deployed, the results get displayed within the console logs. You don't have to scroll up and down because, I mean, they get buried there within all the other information that gets displayed. So it can feel a bit too much. And then the third limitation, is that quite a few developers already have their workspaces set up the way they want them to look and behave. Most Solidity developers use VS Code, so they install all the themes they want, all the extensions, etc. And it's kind of a hard sell to actually persuade these developers to transition to a completely different application. At Aki, we realized this was an issue ourselves, and in order to solve it, we decided to implement all of this functionality within VS Code natively. Firstly, in the initial version, which we released, I think in September, we included all the basic functionality, so you could deploy, compile, deploy, and interact with your contracts. We didn't want to really reinvent the wheel here, although I may have criticized the Remix user experience a little bit. I do believe the core principles are actually correct. So we really just polished the areas which I previously mentioned. But we didn't want to stop here, and now I would like to show you what we've been working on for the past few months. So firstly, it can be quite annoying to have to reset your chain each time you want to try something different. So we added multiple chain support. You can think of this as sessions, let's say. So instead of resetting the chain, you can just create a new chain where you can start with a blank slate and try something different. With this, it made total sense to be able to add some advanced configurability to these chains. So you can set your number of accounts, you can set some gas-specific settings. What I would like to highlight here is that you can also set a fork URL, which allows you to put like a URL from Alchemy, and this way you can fork any EVM-compatible chain into your local chain. Then lastly, within the advanced config, you can also connect to already running chains locally. With this advanced configuration, it also made sense to be able to save all of this state, since it can take a bit of time to configure all of this. So we added chain state saving. All of this happens automatically, so you don't have to really worry about it. So you can close VS Code, reopen it back later, and start where you left off, unless, of course, you disable it on your own. Since I mentioned fork testing, forking AVM-compatible chains, it also made sense to be able to integrate all of these contracts on these chains with your smart contracts you're developing. So we added a way to fetch on-chain contracts just by clicking a single button. You can provide the address of the contracts you want to fetch, and it gets displayed within the UI. And as a cherry on top, we also realized during our testing that the proxy pattern is extremely common, and it was kind of annoying that you couldn't access the implementation functions on the proxies. So we added a quite nice little button where you can just select the ABI of a different contract to add to your proxy to be able to access the implementations functions as well. To summarize all of this, in the new version, you can run multiple chains at once. You can set your advanced configurations for these chains. Specifically, you can fork an EVM-compatible chain, and you can connect to already running local chain instances. All of this configuration and your work can be auto-saved between VS Code sessions. And then, as the two cherries on top, you can also fetch on-chain contracts, and you have native proxy support within the UI. To give you a little hint, a sneak peek on what we are trying to achieve this year, we would like to add also deployment on-chain, because that's where all of your code lives. So yeah, fingers crossed that we'll be able to achieve this as well. All right, all of this is open source and free, so you can either scan the QR code or just search for Solidity Wake on your on VS Code Marketplace. And yeah, I will give you a sec if you want to scan it or take a picture. Okay. And yeah, that's the end of the presentation. Thanks everyone for coming, and see you at the bar if you have any questions. Last thing, I would like to highlight that we have two other presentations coming. Today we have one about static analysis at the Sepolia stage, and tomorrow about fast shrinking. So if this sounds interesting to you, please, of course, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lukas and Stepan. Do you have any questions? We can take 2 questions.
Hi, thanks a lot. It looks like an awesome extension. I will definitely be using it. Is there any plan to bring also the debugger from Remix, which is a quite handy feature, and I was wondering if there was any plans for that.
Yeah, we also have this on our roadmap. However, that requires quite a bit of time to implement. I mean, you can understand probably that it's quite a complex task. So yeah, definitely on our roadmap, but currently we are focusing on the on-chain deployment. Hopefully after that we can also include the debugger. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for the tool. Open sourcing it is it's great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions? If this is not the case, we thank you again, Lukas and Stepan, for your amazing talk.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.